In the late 1940s, a livestock judging pavilion was designed for the North Carolina State Fairgrounds. A livestock judging pavilion that turned out like nothing anybody had ever seen, thanks to the vision of this man, Matthew Nowicki, who came here from Poland to head the new architecture department at North Carolina State College. He imagined a public space on a symphonic scale.
It is such a powerful gesture. And I don't know of a single space in the world where the nature of the space is so beautifully expressed.
It's located right in the middle of the fairgrounds, but even so, this architectural wonder readily blends into the background amid the cacophony of a full-blown state fair. Thousands pass it by, not noticing its groundbreaking elliptical shape, knowing nothing about the engineering innovations, or how modern architecture came to Tobacco Road.
Good morning, Bill. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you. Glad to have you back to Dorton Arena.
NC State facility engineer Bill McClure and Wayne Place, professor of architecture in the College of Design, give us a tour of one of our state's most architecturally important and influential buildings, the Dorton Arena.
Sometimes people will walk into a space like this and then they walk away and they don't even quite realize what they've been in. They come here focused so much on whatever their business is and they don't take time to look up.
Up is where it all comes together. Design, materials, construction, each married to the other, working together in a still and silent dance that combines look with function to a perfection that's almost beyond words. Just as Nowicki envisioned. Tragically, he died in a plane crash and never saw the project completed. But his drawings captured the vision, and that vision had to be realized. His sweeping lines were converted to precise measurements by architect William Henley Dietrich.
And I think what's remarkable is that they're able to create the spatial richness and the complex form out of such simple elements.
Elements that combine to create a design like no other in the world.
This is not a building where you establish a set of columns on a very regular rectangular grid. This is a building where absolutely every foundation was a challenge and every column had to be very carefully located. They were pushing the envelope in ways that are almost unimaginable.
Dietrich worked with Muirhead Construction to bring Nowicki's vision to life, including a roof with a 300-foot free span and no interior columns, supported by high-strength steel cables draped across the span, inspired by the cables supporting San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge.
So these cables, which are there to resist gravity, are very poor in terms of resisting wind. In fact, they put up no resistance to wind, so this roof would literally kite under that kind of wind suction. So to hold the roof down, we have a series of cables running in this direction, which we sometimes call them the wind-resisting cables, and they're there to keep the roof from flying away, basically. They have to be counter-tensioned so that no flutter develops in the roof under any kind of wind disturbance. And Nowicki needed a structure around the boundary that would be comparably efficient in resisting gravity forces. And so just as he chose a parabola for the shape of these gravity cables, he also used a compression arch around the boundary, which is parabolic in shape also.
The two arches that support the roof are key to the way this building works, architecturally and visually.
The history of architecture during World War II placed a lot of emphasis on what we call fascist architecture. There was a deliberate attempt to obscure the purpose of buildings and to hide what went on inside of buildings. And one of the ways that modern architecture expressed its optimism and its desire to get away from that was to be as open as possible. Buildings expressing their purpose was a huge part of what modern architecture was about. And certainly Matthew Nowicki embraced that philosophy and that idea and brought it to an amazing expression in this building.
Dorton Arena is an architectural marvel. The first building in the world to have a roof supported with suspended steel cables.
Okay, so that's Bill over there. He's 300 feet from where we are right now. And that's the length of a football field, and there are no columns between here and there, just these cables that are draped across the space.
Gravity and the innovative cable system keep the arches in constant tension. Hidden underground are abutments crucial to maintaining Dorton Arena's structural integrity.
So this is the pit at the end of this long concrete footing. It looks like these devices are designed to tension that cable. And I guess if these cables weren't running underground from the base of one arch to the other, under load, these arches would tend to splay apart and the building would collapse.
So this is what holds the building up.
This building made a progressive political statement to the world about North Carolina during the anything's possible years following World War II.
And sometimes the politicians are the visionaries. Somebody had to go along with approving this building. And it took a certain amount of courage to make a commitment to something like this because it was so unusual.
Politically, you got to take a look at Governor Carr Scott, whose campaign was to move forward. We have Dr. Dorton, who's manager of the North Carolina State Fair, who was wanting the North Carolina State Fair to be self-supporting. What did we have in the central part of North Carolina as an entertainment venue? And the answer is nothing. When Dr. Dorton realized the Livestock judging pavilion, I think that Dr. Dorton had it in the back of their mind that this would be an entertainment venue too. So politically, the stage was right to get the funding to build this building.
Over the decades, the arena has hosted everything from tractor pulls to ice hockey, from big-time concerts to livestock judging. Although Dorton is no longer the only venue in town, this National Historic Civil Engineering landmark remains open for business in a big way. People never forget the impression it makes the first time they see it.
This building is so beautiful and so remarkable that we have people from around the world that come to Raleigh, North Carolina just to see this building. Whenever I have visitors from out of town, this is the one place I always make sure that I take them, and they are always blown away by the experience of being inside of this building.
And we sit down, and then they can begin to conceive what this building is, because it takes a minute or two for it to sink in what exactly you're looking at.
That's especially true considering that Dorton Arena almost didn't get built. Story says that if dirt wasn't turned on the site by a certain time on a certain date, the project wouldn't go. Enter one contractor, one shovel, and a highway patrolman to get him there, courtesy of Governor Kerr Scott.
Got a shovel, dug a hole, mixed up some cement in a wheelbarrow and poured it in a hole. Turned to the highway patrolman, he says, I have started construction on Dorton Arena. Highway patrolman thanked him real big and said he would go back and report to the governor that construction had started.
Shortly thereafter, President Truman ordered a moratorium on all construction projects. The money and resources were needed to fight the Korean War. But luckily for North Carolina, projects already underway were exempt.
If that hole wouldn't have been dug and that concrete wouldn't have been poured, Dorton Arena may not have been started. The funding for Dorton Arena might have gone other places. And that little window of time that everything came together with the state of North Carolina, the Department of Agriculture, and North Carolina State University, that window might have closed. This building might not be here.
This is like a gem that just was created in a flash, a moment in history. We could learn a lesson from this building about what enthusiasm and optimism can do when people really embrace it.